Moments later, Goff, McCullers, and Scott arrived, armed and intent on their mission. They confronted Lula, demanding to see her husband James and son Willie. When Willie appeared, Goff seized him. Lula desperately tried to pull her son back, but Goff threatened her with a gun. Lula released her grip on Willie, hoping to save her own life and possibly find help.
American Timelines is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network. Find out more at queencitypodcastnetwork.com.
So now I'm obsessed with time. Come on, tell me about the time. Had it all in my hand tonight. Had the time of my life. When the words all come down like blues on Tuesdays come down. Throw it all away.
Welcome to another episode of American Timelines by History for Motherfucking Jerks.
I'm Amy, and that's Joe.
And together, we're here
Together forever and never too hard.
to rock your world. We're here to get you off.
No,
Everybody.
Come on. That's
No, yeah, we're back. So it's been a while, I think, since Amy and I have been on this together, right?
I think it was like in the 1900s.
Is when we recorded it. We were
Yeah.
in the 40s. I did my last two episodes. I had Art Starr and
Oh, you
Hunter
did?
Brame
I'll have to
with
listen
me.
to that one.
Oh, you didn't even listen to him?
No, I
Jeez.
usually don't.
Those guys are, well, Hunter's a World War II buff. And then Art
Oh.
Starr is just, he loves Hunter
He's our
Brizzle. So,
star.
yeah.
You don't need to say anymore.
yeah, that's all I got to say about Art Starr from the Nerd School podcast. He's the best thing about the Nerd School podcast. Don't tell TBJ. But he's the best thing
And
about.
who cares if Andy knows?
Yeah, yeah, fuck Andy. Yeah, so Art Starr is great in every facet, and it's just fun to hear him talk. He's got a Baltimore accent, and he's got something to say about everything. Anyway, those guys are in that, and Hunter's going to be with me. I got a couple authors that have reached out that have written books about World War II, and they want to be on American Timelines,
Yeah.
which is really cool that we're to the point where people are reaching out to us.
Especially because we never record.
Yeah, we're kind of slow. We've got a lot out there, but we take forever to put them out.
Yeah.
And I've been doing those friend check episodes in between.
Right.
And if those of you who hate friend check will be happy to know, that's going to be its own podcast. So there won't be any more friend checks on American Timelines. That'll be its own podcast called Friend Check. I'm going to
And
re-release
your
the
poor
10 we've done.
neglected friend's named Zach.
I'll get to Zach's.
Yeah.
I don't know
I
if
don't
I have a
think you
friend
will.
named Zach.
I think you've got probably 800 people as friends on that stupid
I've got
thing.
1,400.
Oh my God. I thought I was
That's
being
why I'm
generous.
doing it. That's why I'm doing it, is because I want to find out who these people are. And Adi Kapoor, I've never spoken to that I know of in my life. I now know this guy, and I'm glad to know him.
You might get some lifelong friends out of that.
I might, yeah, we're getting closer to friends. That's what Facebook should be. Social media should be real friendship. So anyway, yeah, I'm getting to know people. That's what that's about. If you like that, that'll be its own podcast. I'm going to re-release the 10 we've done and kind of put those out and try to get a following on those. So they'll be off of American Timelines. But that just means American Timelines will probably do this less often. It'll probably be a once a month thing because we're so busy.
Yeah.
But I got those two authors teed up. Hunter wants to interview them because he's under World War II, so I'm having him preview their books. So we'll give you a little bit of break, Aim, but you'll be back in a little bit. But we're into 1944 now. We're jumping right into 1944.
Yeah.
And again, the 40s, we knew this would happen. It's very World War II heavy. It's also very racist heavy. This is the Jim Crow era of America, which I think in the past few years has been
As
just,
a resurgence?
well, but it's been whitewashed a lot.
Oh,
A
yeah.
lot of people just try to pretend it didn't happen and that it wasn't as bad
Well,
as
they
it
won't
was.
even let you talk about it.
Yeah.
Hardly.
Yeah. It's because there's people have shame.
Yeah.
They want to forget it happened. And so that's why I think it's all the more important that we talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that people like us especially talk about it. So it's not like our friends, the Black Guy Who Tips, had us on their podcast. Remember, they said, we just wanted to tell you how thankful we are that people like you talk about it. It's not just black people that talk about it. There's some white people. Remember, they said that to us.
Yeah.
You know, they said, you guys keep it real, and there's not a lot of white people that are talking about it and still bringing it up, even though it's the white people that are the problem. And, so that's why it's important to me that we're doing this.
Oh, yeah. Like, I was just thinking, today's Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and he was on a little clip that I saw, And the reporter says to him, Dr. Martin Luther King, you're probably the only one, your race is probably the only one that has these kinds of problems. Why is it? What is it about the black race? And I'm just sitting there fuming. And of course he says, no other race has been enslaved in this country.
Right, yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, we're the only ones who were slaves.
Of course
yeah.
we're further down. We've been held down. They've,
Right.
by every system that we've ever had. I'm more and more convinced.
Yeah.
It had, if it wasn't created to hold them down, it was a wonderful feature of it was to hold them down.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Like every system we have, you can find it.
Well, it's all about the power and giving the power to the rich. It's like, if you can keep what is it? Kendrick Lamar's whole thing about separating, separate the poor.
Yeah.
Between right and left and black and white, the more you separate them, they will not overthrow the power, the rich power. It's all about power and money and greed. Yeah. But again, we're going to talk about this because it's important to know this happened in our history. It's easy for kids now to just think, oh, everything's been great and everything's been almost equal. And it's like everybody's got to fight to get their own, but no, it hasn't. Because here in January 1944, something terrible happened. And Amy, you're going to start this one off
yes.
by telling us this awful thing that happened.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about the murder of Willie James Howard. So this was January 1944. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
This Willie James Howard was 15 years old, kid. Very bright, kind-hearted. He got lynched is really what happened. His story, though, exposes this entrenched racism of the Jim Crow era in the United States. Mm-hmm. Also, the vulnerability of black children in the South. They couldn't do anything. They were just, you couldn't go outside your home.
It was just a battle. I mean, it's just
anytime you had
danger,
any interaction at all with white people,
mm-hmm.
it was so dangerous
mm-hmm.
in the South, and that white supremacy, how it crippled black families. So this is he was born on July 13th, 1928, in Live Oak, Florida.
Mm-hmm. Parents
James and Lula Howard. The Howards had managed, defying the odds of the Jim Crow era. They had their own land, which was amazing for a black family at the time.
Yeah, you don't hear about that happening hardly ever.
And James had a full-time job at the Bond Howell Lumber Company, and Lula stayed at home and took care of Willie, their only child, and took care of the house. And he was known as Giddy Boy to his family. He was a vibrant and lively young boy, loved to sing and whistle. His lovable nature and zest for life made him a joy to be around. However, this is what I was just saying, beyond the safety of his home, he faced a harsh reality. As a black child in the South, he was constantly exposed to the threats of racial violence and oppression.
From white supremacists.
And because there was such a rigid caste system at the time that was created from these Jim Crow laws, even the slightest transgression against white supremacy could result in this real brutal retaliation. Mm-hmm. And so there was, for kids, there was this dichotomy. You could be carefree at home and safe, and then you go out into the world, and it's terror, racial terror, and you're just vulnerable. So there was this always ever-present threat of lynching. There was a haunting awareness. This was social scientist John Dollard said that was a haunting awareness that loomed over Willie's life, ultimately becoming his devastating fate. So, Live Oak was where this happened. Live Oak, Florida. You were right. Is the county seat of Suwannee County.
Suwannee.
Had a history that reflected the broader racial tensions of the South. So after the Civil War and the time known as Reconstruction, mm-hmm. black men would briefly hold positions of authority
mm-hmm.
And political power in Suwannee County. There were seats on the county commission and as justices of the peace. And that happened across the South during the Reconstruction era. And there was like this promise in the air that something might change.
If
You
they
know.
might, yeah, we're gonna get past slavery and all this.
But then when Reconstruction ended, white supremacy regained its grip, and Live Oak became a microcosm of Jim Crow oppression. Between 1890 and 1900, 6 black men were lynched in Suwannee County.
Jeez.
These acts of terror were meant to reinforce racial hierarchies, and they were trying to suppress any black resistance.
Yeah.
And so by the time Willie was born in 1928, Live Oak was a town where racial violence, it wasn't only common, but it was very normalized.
Eesh.
And so stage was set for him to become another victim of this systemic brutality. Hold on, that was on there twice. So in the fall of 1943, Willie started working at Van Priest's dime store in Live Oak, where he performed various tasks, mostly cleaning, taking out the trash, and restocking shelves. And he liked this job because it was so much better than working out in the farm, in the fields. And, however, working in close proximity to white people was its own risk.
Yeah.
So during the Christmas season that year, Willie decided to give holiday cards to his coworkers, which included Cynthia Goff, who was a white girl his age. There are differing accounts of the card's contents, and a subsequent note Willie allegedly wrote. Some describe it as just like a kind gesture, and then others claim that Willie included the lyrics to a popular song Cynthia had requested he write down. But regardless of the details, the act of a black boy writing to a white girl was deemed a serious breach of the Jim Crow era's racial codes.
So she was probably just polite to him and nice to him.
Yeah.
And so he probably assumed that this was okay now, that she was his friend.
Right. So Cynthia's father, Phil Goff, saw the note and went off the deep end. He said he thought it was disrespect to his family. And he was a respected figure in Live Oaks and a former Florida state legislator. So he swiftly enlisted the help of his neighbors, Selden McCullers and his brother-in-law, Reginald Scott, to get revenge. In their minds, Willie's innocence and motives didn't matter. His skin color alone was enough to condemn him. So on January 2nd, 1944, 3 white men arrived at the Howard family's home with a singular and sinister purpose to punish 15-year-old Willie for crossing the racial boundaries of Jim Crow. Leading the group was Phil Goff, a former member of the Florida House of Representatives and a prominent figure in Live Oak's white community. And he was enraged by Willie's note to his daughter, so he enlisted his neighbor, Selden McCullers, and his brother-in-law, Reginald Scott, to join him. And we kind of...
Yeah, I don't know why it kind of repeats that. So.
That's okay. So, they... visit Edward McPherson, who was Willie's school principal, to get directions to the Howard residence. And that would later implicate McPherson in the events. With the directions in hand, then they went to the Howard family home. Meanwhile, Willie was at work at Van Priest's dime store when he received this warning that white men were searching for him. So he rushes home to alert his mother, Lula. Then moments later, Goff, McCullers, and Scott arrived, armed and intent on their mission. They confronted Lula, demanding to see her husband, James, and son, Willie. When Willie appeared, Goff seized him. Lula desperately tried to pull her son back, but Goff threatened her with a gun. Lula released her grip on Willie, hoping to save her own life and possibly find help. The men dragged Willie to their car and forced him inside. In a further act of cruelty, they drove to James Howard's workplace, the Bond Howell Lumber Company, and deceived his employer into releasing him. So they must have made up some lie to get the employer to release him. When James approached the car, he saw his son being held at gunpoint by the McCullers. So he didn't know what was to come. So he complies with the men's demands, gets in the car with his son.
Oh, boy.
So they drove James and Willie down Suwannee Springs Road, eventually turning onto a dirt path that led to the Suwannee River. As they traveled, James attempted to comfort his son, but Goff would tell him to shut up. So then, when they got at the riverbank, the men retrieved a rope from their car and bound Willie's hands and feet. And so then the father and the son were then ordered to approach the river's edge, where the men's sinister intentions became clear. They aimed to punish Willie for his perceived transgression against Cynthia Goff by taking his life.
Oh, Jesus.
So, in a gruesome display of power, Goff asked James if he approved of the punishment, to which James desperately pleaded for mercy, but his words fell on deaf ears. The men presented Willie with an impossible choice: either jump into the river or get shot. So he's crying, he's overcome with fear, he acknowledges his punishment. So before he jumps, he asks his father to take his wallet, which was a heart-wrenching acknowledgement that these were his final moments.
Oh, my God. So his feet and hands are bound, so he's going to drown because he can't swim or anything.
Right. And James offered his son words of comfort, saying, "Willie, I can't do anything for you now. I'm glad I've belonged to the church and prayed for you." And with that, Willie backed away from the riverbank and fell into the water, his body disappearing beneath the surface. The men restrained James, preventing him from attempting to save his son. Afterward, Goff, McCullers, and Scott drove James back to town, threatening him that if he ever revealed the truth about Willie's fate, he would suffer the same consequences.
Jeez.
So the aftermath of this murder...
It's so awful. Can you even imagine that, being in that situation?
No. But it's just...
Over nothing.
It's just the lengths that human beings can go to be cruel to each other. It just doesn't... It baffles me every time, and I don't know why, because I see it all the time.
It's just... It's dumb. It's dumbfounding that that hate is this prevalent and this
and it was
horribly
so
awful.
It was basically considered common knowledge, the racial hierarchy, that white people were the best, and the smartest, and the fastest, and the best.
And the second you even consort with someone else, you need to be put back in your place. And
right. So the aftermath of his murder exposed the deep-seated systemic racism that was all throughout the community. Local authorities, including the sheriff, colluded to conceal the truth, forcing James Howard to sign false statements supporting the mob's fabricated claim that Willie had voluntarily jumped into the river, even though his feet and hands were tied up.
Why would he do that?
The sheriff further obstructed justice by preventing a coroner's inquest, effectively silencing any pursuit of accountability. The Howard family was left devastated. Within days, they fled Live Oak, selling their home and abandoning the community they tirelessly built. The loss of their only child was compounded by the fact that his killers faced no repercussions, instead resuming their lives as respected members of Live Oak's white community. News of Willie's lynching eventually reached the NAACP, prompting prominent black leaders such as Thurgood Marshall and Harriet T. Moore to take action.
Harry T. Moore,
sorry. They advocated for a thorough investigation and accountability, but their efforts were thwarted. In May 1944, Governor Spessard Holland convened a grand jury, but the proceedings were a sham. The jury disregarded James Howard's testimony, declined to indict the perpetrators, and effectively shut down the case, perpetuating the cycle of injustice. Despite the NAACP's tireless efforts, justice for Willie remained an unattainable goal. The U.S. Department of Justice declined to pursue federal charges, citing insufficient evidence. The pervasive systemic racism that facilitated Willie's murder also ensured its perpetrators would escape punishment. For James and Lula Howard, the loss of their only child was an unbearable burden. Lula carried the pain of Willie's death for 60 years until her passing in 2004. James, who'd been forced to witness his son's lynching, suffered in silence until his death. There were lives forever altered by an act of unimaginable cruelty ignored by the world. In stark contrast, Willie's murderers lived long, untroubled lives. Phil Goff passed away in 1969, Selden McCullers 1968, and Reginald Scott 1983. Cynthia Goff, whose family's outrage sparked these events, lived until 2011. Willie, however, was denied the opportunity to grow up, experience love, and build a life. His story transcends personal tragedy, reflecting the systemic injustices that defined the Jim Crow era. It serves as a poignant reminder that the fight for racial equality remains ongoing, of course.
Yeah, and I think, people have at least heard of Emmett Till more often now, even though a lot of people still haven't. But I don't think anybody's heard of Willie Howard. And I think,
right?
Again, that's why it's important, I think, that we talk about these things, that it's like, this is, and again, not to say, I think part of the reason everyone wants to whitewash it, well, it's not, we don't do this anymore. I mean, right, but this is why things are the way they are. And you got to remember, like you said, like, we're still coming out of this. And like you said, that interview where somebody said, how come it's only black people that have, like.
Yeah, it's like, what do you think?
Yeah, what do you think? This isn't that long ago. It's only the 40s.
How can you pull yourself up by your bootstraps when you ain't got no boots?
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, there's obviously still plenty of systemic racism, but but just to know, like, this is what we're built on. Just keep that in mind and be kind to each other, and just, it's time to move. It's time to, no more whitewashing everything. We need to just realize where we're at. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's important to.
It's important to talk about it.
Yeah,
and it's all our history. Like, that's the other piece of it, is that, like, a lot of times people will say Black history. Mm-hmm. Oh, we have a whole month for Black history.
Yeah, Black history is American
history.
Yeah.
White people were just as much as, like, we're half of that history.
Yeah. We're the reason it is.
We're
Black
the antagonist
history.
in that story.
Yeah, right. We're the reason it has to be Black history.
Right.
There wouldn't have to be if
white people would have enslaved and brought everybody over here.
And then all the years of racism and awfulness that followed. Yeah. Well, let's cleanse the palate with January 6th birthday, shall we?
Amy hates birthdays. Amy hates birthdays.
January 6th, 1944, in Santa Monica, California, a young lady was born, and with her parents were both Jewish immigrants. Her father from Russia, her mother from Romania. They got married in Montreal before moving to the U.S. Her dad was an investment banker, so they moved to Beverly Hills when she was 13, and she graduated from Beverly Hills High School in 1961, home of the Fighting Normans. That's right, Bonnie Franklin was born, your favorite and mine. She has been featured in many films and TV shows, but most known for
One Day at a Time.
One Day at a Time, yeah, that's right. Bonnie Franklin, the mom on One Day at a Time. And did you know that her high school, Beverly Hills High School, was also featured in many films and shows as a filming location, including It's a Wonderful Life. You know that big scene in Wonderful Life where they fall and the floor opens up on the dance floor and they fall into the pool?
Beverly Hills High School.
That's Beverly Hills High School. They had a unique swim gym that opened up, and that's in It's a Wonderful Life. So there you go. Notable alumni of Beverly Hills High School include Betty White, Lenny Kravitz, Corbin Burnson, Carrie Fisher, Slash, David Schwimmer, Pauly Shore, Rob Reiner, Lorraine Newman, Crispin Glover, Richard Dreyfuss, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Albert Brooks, all went to the same high school. Obviously not at the same time.
No.
And the same day that Bonnie Franklin was born, I want to talk about somebody who died. So maybe this person was reincarnated in Bonnie Franklin, but it was Ida Tarbell. Again, I want to go back to this whole theme of things we never talk about.
Yeah.
She is an important woman in history. She was a pioneer of investigative journalism. Ida Tarbell. You've probably never heard of her.
I have.
Have you?
I haven't. I know the name is what I'm saying.
Oh, I've never heard of her. Never heard that name.
Yeah.
But she's best known for her 1904 book, The History of the Standard Oil Company. The book was first published as a series of articles in McClure's from 1902 to 1904, and this has been called a masterpiece of investigative journalism by historian J. North Conway, as well as the single most influential book on business ever published in the U.S.
Oh, my God.
That was historian Daniel Yergin said that.
We need an investigative journalist again.
Well, that's it. And here's what she did. Listen, the work contributed to the dissolution of the Standard Oil monopoly and helped usher in the Hepburn Act of 1906, the Mann-Elkins Act, the creation of the Federal Trade Commission, and the passage of the Clayton Antitrust Act of 1914. So basically, there was a giant oil monopoly that she kind of called out. And this is a woman in 1904, she wrote a book. Like, that's crazy.
It is.
And nobody's ever heard of her. I've never heard of her. She also wrote several biographies over the course of her 64-year career. She wrote biographies of Madame Roland and Napoleon. Tarbell believed that the truth and motivations of powerful human beings could be discovered. And that truth, she became convinced, could be conveyed in such a way as to precipitate meaningful social change. So...
I wish.
Yeah, she's a big deal.
Yeah.
And you have to keep believing it. Even I mean, you got to think. I think just when we think it's hopeless what we're up against in today's day, think about the people in the 40s. If they had given up and said, "Oh, throw our hands up, we can't do anything."
Depression, you mean? And
Yeah,
everything going on in
everything in the 60s and the civil rights. If everybody just threw their hands up and said, "Oh, well, we can't do anything," you have to keep faith and keep the hope and keep fighting. Anyway, just a little motivational speech from me to you. You just got to keep the fire up, babe.
I need to.
You do.
Because it's hard.
It's hard. It's hard. It's not an easy fight.
Just sit back and watch it burn.
Yeah, you want to be mad, but you can't. I mean, we've fought. So many people have fought too many times. You can't let Ida Tarbell
down.
And Bonnie Franklin. You can't let her.
All right.
And Joe Frazier.
Amy hates birthdays. Amy hates birthdays.
Wednesday, January 12th, Joe Frazier was born, nicknamed Smokin' Joe. He was an American professional boxer who competed from 65 to 81.
Yes.
He's widely regarded as one of the greatest heavyweight boxers of all time. He was known for his strength, durability, formidable left hand, and relentless pressure fighting style. He was the first boxer to defeat Muhammad Ali. He won a gold medal in 1964. He was raised in Laurel Bay, South Carolina, not far from us, a rural community in Beaufort County, South Carolina. Now, I don't know if it's Beaufort or Buford.
Buford, probably.
Buford.
I think.
But I think it looks like Beaufort. But I think different people pronounce it differently. But there's a Buford, South Carolina, and Buford, North Carolina. And they're spelled differently. Frazier said he was always close to his father, who carried him when he was a toddler over the 10 acres of farmland the Fraziers worked as sharecroppers on. And all the way around the farmland, he'd carry him to the still where he made his bootleg corn liquor, and into town on Saturdays to buy the necessities that a family of 10 needed. Family of 10.
Oh, my God.
He was affectionately called Billy Boy. And here's how he got to start in boxing. In the early 50s, Frazier's father bought a black and white television, and the family and others nearby came to watch boxing matches on it. And Frazier's mother sold drinks for a quarter as they watched boxers like Sugar Ray Robinson, Rocky Marciano, Willie Pep, and Rocky Graziano. One night, Frazier's uncle Israel noted Frazier's stocky build. He said, "That boy there, that boy is going to be another Joe Louis," he remarked. The words made an impression on Joe, and his classmates at school would actually give him a sandwich or a quarter to walk with them at the final bell so that bullies would not bother him.
Huh.
So he became this, and he thought about being a boxer.
Bodyguard.
So the day after his uncle's comment, Frazier filled an old burlap sack with rags, corn cobs, a brick, and Spanish moss, and he hung the makeshift heavy bag from an oak tree in the backyard for the next 6 or 7 years. Damn near every day, he said, I'd hit that heavy bag for an hour at a time. I wrap my hands with a necktie of my daddy's or a stocking of my mama's or sister's and get to it, he remarked. And that's how he became Joe Frazier.
Joe Frazier.
Yep. January 23rd. This one is for our friend Brian McCartney, who will probably listen to this on his way back from Thailand. The Detroit Red Wings recorded the most lopsided win in National Hockey League history when they blew out the New York Rangers 15-0. That's a huge record.
Okay.
Amy hates birthdays. Amy hates birthdays.
Angela Davis was born on January 26, 1944. You know who she is? Political activist, scholar, and author.
Excuse me. Look at my T-shirt.
Oh, is that Angela Davis on your shirt?
Angela Davis on my shirt.
Oh, my God. Yeah,
That's
of course.
crazy. I didn't
That's
know
hilarious.
That is funny.
Yeah, you're wearing it. Yeah, I know who Angela Davis is.
Do I?
So I don't know if everybody knows who she is,
No,
but she's still alive. You know that?
Yeah.
Yep. She's an American Marxist and feminine political activist, philosopher, academic, and author. She's a distinguished professor emerita of feminist studies and history of consciousness at the University of California, Santa Cruz. She was a longtime member of the Communist Party and founding member of the Committees of Correspondence for Democracy and Socialism. She was active in movements such as the Occupy movement and the boycott, divestment, and sanctions campaign.
Mm-hmm.
She was huge in the fight against the Vietnam War.
Yes.
During the 80s, she was twice the Communist Party's candidate for vice president. In 1997, she co-founded Critical Resistance, an organization working to abolish the prison industrial complex, which is another horrible, awful problem.
Yeah.
In 1991, amid the dissolution of the Soviet Union, she broke away from the CPUSA to help establish the CCDS. That same year, she joined the Feminist Studies Department at the University of California, Santa Cruz, where she became department director before retiring in 2008. She's received various awards, including the Soviet Union's Lenin Peace Prize, an induction in the National Women's Hall of Fame. Due to accusations that she advocates political violence and due to her support of the Soviet Union, she has been a controversial figure.
She is, I know.
In 2020, she was listed as the 1971 Woman of the Year in Time Magazine's 100 Women of the Year edition. And she was also included in Time's list of 100 most influential people in the world. Angela Davis, there you go.
That's just funny that I have that shirt on.
Yeah, I didn't know you had Angela Davis on your shirt. Yeah, you were a very feminist lady. And
Amy hates birthdays. Amy hates birthdays.
Sunday, February 13th, Stockard Channing was born.
Yes.
Another birthday. She's an American actress, best known for what?
Rizzo.
She played Betty Rizzo in the film Grease. And First Lady Abby Bartlett in the NBC television series The West Wing, which I still never watched. I wonder if it's too late to watch that.
Yeah. Who wants to watch a 1980s drama? You.
It wasn't in the 80s.
One.
It was in the 90s,
Oh,
I
it
think.
was?
The West Wing was 1999 to 2006.
Just as bad.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
It's a long time ago now.
She was born in Manhattan. She grew up on the affluent Upper East Side. She was the daughter of Mary Alice and Lester Napier Stockard, who died in 1960, who was in the shipping business. Her elder sister is Leslie Stockard Smith, a former mayor of Palm Beach, Florida. Did you know that? Anyway, Stockard Channing is an alumna of Madeira School in McLean, Virginia, a boarding school for girls, home of the Snails. Notable alumni include Helen T. Edwards, a physicist. Home of the Snails.
All righty then.
There you go. And that's all I have is for January. All I have for February at all is Stockard Channing being born.
Well, good.
And so I didn't, I'm just trying to thin it down a little bit.
Stop
so
her there, babe.
And we'll be back. There's some more murders in March and April.
Murder in the
to.
building. The lynching, we do have to talk about it.
I know.
It's
That
very
sucks because it's
important.
not what true crime people like, because true crime people like the thrill of a murderer, a serial killer, but
Right.
these are also murders.
They are.
And I think people don't
And
want to
it's-
talk about it because it's uncomfortable.
Yes.
But I think again you have to, so it doesn't
Because
get lost.
it is part of the history that helps explain the current
where we're at,
situation of where we're at.
and we're in danger of
I
it going
know.
away in schools.
Yep.
Because there's an agenda of white idiots that don't want people to know this stuff.
Don't I know it?
That feel guilty. So anyway, sorry about it being a downer, folks, but that's who we are on American Timelines. That's history for jerks.
Sus, baby.
Yeah.
Love it or lump it.
What?
Don't the people say that sometimes?
Love it or lump it?
Isn't that what people say?
I need a beer. After that, I need a beer. I'm going to go drink some beer.
Don't be a dick.
Oh, God. Gotta get out of this.
What?
Gotta get out of this situation. Anyway, thanks for listening, Time Heads. We'll be back. And then, like I said, when we're done with the 40s, aren't we going to switch it up? I can't remember what
Yeah,
we're
it'd
going
be
to do.
like each of us pick a story and just come and tell each other.
We are? That's what we're going to do?
Maybe.
We're going to switch it up.
We are.
We're going to do all kinds of stuff. But we got to get through the 40s because this is what we've been doing. We got to get through this World War II stuff.
I mean, we could even do news of the weird, like current news.
Yeah.
And each on our own go look up what weird news stories and then just bring them and tell each other.
I want to do, that's what I think. If you look up local news in towns you've never heard of.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, here's the story that happened in.
Oh, this lady embezzled all the money from the book fair and
Yeah.
her local elementary
You
school.
tell me the news, and I will read reviews of local restaurants in towns that we've never been to.
Yeah.
or people's Facebook groups. What's
my
up,
God.
Fresno? I'm sick of the lady. Have you guys seen the
Whose dog is this?
dog? Somebody get your dog. I'm sick of the bicyclist riding on the road, taking up 2 lanes. Anyway, thanks for listening, Time Heads. We'll be back soon. If you live in North Carolina, so do we. So let's have some beers.
All right. Love you guys. Bye.
Get out of here.
Yeah,
Oh, my child, it's about to get wild. Have you been down on the streets today? Say,
Matt Truman Ego Trip is the greatest band of all time. Buy their music. Also, American Timelines is a product of History for Jerks and a member of the Queen City Podcast Network. Find out more about History for Jerks at historyforjerks.com. Check out the Gruff and Loud Show on YouTube and the Nerd School podcast featuring the sexy art star. There's also a dumb t-shirt shop on Threadless, created by History for Jerks. You can buy a Gordon Jump shirt or an Edie McClurg shirt. It's really dumb and stupid.